Hey, it's Joe Glines from the Automator, and the other day a Hero member asked about the XML class that Makesmith wrote years ago, and he has a couple of videos. I'll try to link to both of them here. Or actually, I'll put them all on one page about XML so you can get the resources, the links to other videos, and the V2 adaptation that I used AI to create of Makesmith's class. So then, during the Heroes call, we walked through some basics of how to use it. And so that's what this video is going to have, is the hero call, but there's, again, other resources that you can find on that page to at least a couple hours of training on using XPath in the XML class that Makesmith wrote, and him training me before I knew anything about objects or classes. And so this was a long time ago. It's all, that part's in V1, this is all V2, but the XML part doesn't really change. So XPath doesn't change between versions of AutoHotkey. The implementation of the model might be slightly different, but you can get some really good learnings here. XML is great. We also, I'll put a link right here, but I talked to it in there. We have a video from AHKCon where we talked about storing data files as like text files and any files in SQLite databases, XML, JSON, and the pros and cons of each one of those things, which is another great resource if you're interested in learning more about storing data and how to access it. So I hope you enjoy this video. Please like it if you learned something. It really helps us out. Really consider checking out that hero group. It's a great value for the money, and we meet 3 hours a week. Of course, you don't have to be there, but you can attend if you want or watch the calls after they've been recorded. Have a great day. Cheers.
So this includes the XML class. It is just like a class. I don't know what root element really is, but I would assume that it is something. When you call new, you can tell it what the root element is. That's what it is. So he just called it root element. You can call it whatever you want, I guess. I will modify this. This is the path to the file that you're going to be working with. Let's see if that file actually exists right now. It does not. All right. So XML test is not there. So this is the main element. That means the top element in your XML. And this is the file we're going to be working. And what he did is that he's just going to add something with a path. Now, interestingly, the paths, I don't know if you have done XPaths, but I think that's what he's using. So that would be root element. Inside root element, he's going to be creating my, and inside my, he's going to create a new element, and inside new, he's going to create path. Now, that last one, where you are, he's going to set an attribute. Well, each attribute is named here. You can change the names in there. And then this is the text that goes inside the path. Now that 0 at the end, let me see what that is whether I would allow duplicates or not, which, okay, this seems pretty straightforward to me. I don't know if that makes any sense. Then we added another node, but we don't specify where. Because of that, it's going to be exactly the same root element. So they're both going to be, so my in here and just a node, they're both going to be on the same level, right? And then under whoever was the top, so under just a node, because every time you add something, you get a node. Now under that node, we're going to add another one with these elements and so on. So now we transform it. That actually kind of like prettifies it, I guess. And then SN, he likes kind of like, what he did is that he simplified a lot of the functions. This basically starts for single node, if I remember right. So he didn't want to type the whole thing. So he just did SN, and the other one is SSN, right? And the other one is SSN, which is select single node, if I remember right. I don't remember exactly, but he just got single node, and he just puts the path of what he wants to capture. In this case, it just means anywhere I can find the node named path, which should be this guy right here, right? So it's this guy. And again, this is normal XPath. So if you're searching for something, I think it's a search node or single node. I don't know what it is. It just grabs your node. Well, sorry. That select nodes right? It selects multiple nodes. It is a list. You get an array in here, which is the reason why he's kind of like getting the next list item. And then for each item, he's just looking at the XML and so on and so forth. So for now, in this example, you already have most of the things that you're going to be doing, which is adding nodes, getting nodes, and in some cases, adding nodes at specific locations. So this example covers everything. Now let's go for it. Let's just look at it. I'm going to run this. This creates a GUI, always on top. Let's go ahead and go next. I get a tree view there. This creates the XML. Now this object, as you can see, it has an XML document. That's it. And now you're gonna add a new path. Every time you add something, you get a node back. But be careful. This is an actual COM object thing. This is not a normal text or something. This is a COM object. So you have to follow the syntax of the COM object. Now let's keep doing this, blah, blah, blah. It just added everything. Now we transform the stuff. Now we search for path and it gives me a list. Again, those are COM objects. Now we're gonna go ahead and loop through them and look at the XML. Boom, there you go. For the first one that it found, which is path, which had the another attribute value, the text, and then we are good. I think there is no other. Is there other? I don't remember where. Oh, well, yeah, he has 5 of them. So yeah, he did that. Let's say, whoop, cool. Now, that's it. And now, can we save? I think we can save this into a file. So if you have my XML, I think you can save. What are the options here? Great. I don't know what the options are. I don't know what the options are, but I can save. All right. Probably on the XML DOM, we could go ahead and see what the options are. But if I run this, let me see what happens. By the way, there was supposed to be a GUI here, but I don't see the GUI. Now let me see if the file was created. There it is. So the save function that I added at the end created this file for me. And again, I think you have a load option in which you can load a file into an object, and now you can process it and do stuff. But let's look at how that object looks like. So as I mentioned, you have your root element. That's the name that he chose for that. Now for each my element, you have new, and inside new, you have path, right? Now, the first one was just the one that didn't have an index, and then he looped 5 times to create the ones that had the index. You will see it in a second. And then it just created just a node. And under the just a node, he created node name, which is the one that we were looking at right here. So this is the one that says under node, under top, which is under that, added this. So as you can see here, the first one, he created it, he had attribute, another, but he didn't have an index. Now here, you have attribute, another, and then you have the index. You see, that's the difference between them. This one, he didn't allow it to be duplicated, right? But this one he did. That's the reason why you have a 1 at the end. It allowed him to kind of create the same name, but just with different indexes, I guess. But all of these, you can change it to whatever you want. So you can say books instead of, that's the root element. And then let's say author, then Isaias. Name, my first book, year, 2025. Summary of this book, whatever. And again, you can go ahead and do this, right? He just made use those names just because. You can change them to whatever you want, and you will see when I save the file how they look. I guess you understand what is going to happen, right?
Yeah, all clear.
Yeah. So basically, I don't need to over explain this, but basically, as you can see, I don't need none of this. And let's just not do that, and we just save it. Now, what it says.
You deleted your index attribute, I think. Line 14.
No, but I think it's the path. You cannot add a backslash at the end. Yeah, that's it. So now,
okay.
if we look at the my XML test, all right. So this one, notice how it started doing the authors here, but I have to kind of like delete the file. Let's go ahead and delete the file. I added this. All right. Yeah. So now you have books, then you have your author, the name, or whatever. So, oh, that's interesting. Oh, because he created that as a how do I say as a node. No, I didn't want it as a node. I actually wanted something else. I wanted it as an attribute. But you're getting the idea. So right now, as you can see, it is easy for me to create or read because, again, as I mentioned before, you can actually load from a file. This would be let's do it like this. There you go. Basically. All right. It's just this thing is so strange. Yeah, Windows 11 doesn't update the files. There you go. So now it just created them like that. All right, so reading it, I think you can just simply do, you load your object, right? I think you just do my XML load. No, you don't have a load.
I thought there was.
I think just by loading it, it's already just by opening the XML with the name of the file, it already loads it, I think. Because I
think it defines it. It's like if it exists, it connects to it. If it doesn't exist, it creates it.
So I can just SSN that's select single node. This is select nodes. So list while item equals list item index, and then, oh, there we go. There was a GUI somewhere. Let me just show it and see what that looks like. We don't need to save at this point. Okay, so let me see if it did find anything. No, it didn't actually find.
The equal sign has the colon. No. Oh, okay. It's not a condition.
No, it's not a condition. I'm trying
line
to.
10, should you be searching Isaias or should you be searching author?
Okay.
Let's see.
So you can select.
Oh, yeah. No, he's right. I know what it is. It is because before Isaiah was a node, but now it's not a node. Now it is actually a property of the author node. So yeah, in this case, I couldn't have name. It was not name. It was author. Well, actually, yeah, it should have node. Oh, hold on. And this trivia add is totally wrong.
I think this.
Actually, we need to get attributes. There is a different command to get the attribute, I think.
All right.
And I think that error you're getting, I think that's what I was running into previously. at the bottom of that script, I had a loop that I was trying to follow along with the video with Maestri, and I could not get it to pull the attributes. That .ea method was just not working for me. I didn't know if that
Okay.
was me or the library. I don't know.
That's a great question. So, and Irfan is saying probably there is a method for it, right?
Yeah,
So
getting attributes.
for getting attributes, so there is the object for the XML, all right? But there is an object for the node itself. So let me look at the nodes. How do the nodes behave? So we can add, create elements, EA, extract attributes. That's probably what we want to do.
Yeah.
But the problem here is you have to give it the XPath and then the attribute name, like, all right.
I think he's using in this function, he's using a method to get the attributes without the X from the node.
Yes.
So if you go there in the EA function,
But hold on, you're saying well, it should be here.
yeah, if you go to the EA function, I think.
Let me see, hold on. You have to give it an XPath to a given thing and tell it what attribute name you want. So at that point, we get the XPath, we get the node name.
SSN function give us the
Look at
attribute.
this, the at, maybe the at sign for the, so you have an XPath with the at, it would give you what you want, I think. So I would say, you see this guy? Check this out.
Output debug.
I think that would do what I want. Let me just, and I don't want this anyway. Not yet, the add. So you cannot do that. SSN. Hold on, let me look at this real quick. Yeah, you do have it. Okay, so I want the object. So I got the object first. Then I want to do the EA. So it said my XML.EA, let's say this guy,
Yeah, this guy.
and then attribute name, which is weird. Let's see, hold on. Yeah.
Reload.
Okay.
Here's no
Exactly.
name.
No, because
The author is
that is a node. So list, he says XPath in there. So I was expecting a string, but it seems to be that he needs the freaking item itself. Item 0, let's say.
okay.
Again, so then it says the COM object doesn't have item. It does. It is. Oh no, sorry, because this is single. I need all of them. Okay, what is T now? There it goes.
Yeah.
So you have to pass a node to it, but he puts, and this is one of the things that you have to be careful when you create your stuff. He said XPath. XPath is a string, which is a path to an attribute or something. But he's not expecting an XPath, and I knew that because here, when you have XPath, he's trying to access something from an object. You see that? That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But in any case, look at that. You can say from a node, you can select the nodes at the attribute. So for example, if I say select single node, this is my node here. I could say select single node at name. That should work according to the code. Let me see. No, let me. But it got an object. Okay, so I got an object there.
Dot text or value.
Yeah, something like that. There it is. So this, and again, it says select single node, but I can just say SSN, by the way, because he doesn't like typing and stuff like that, if I remember right. Oh no, but that's the COM object itself. Wow. So if it is the COM object, you have to do that. If it is the SSN, oh, look at this. So I could say, can I say name here and then dot text? That should work.
This is one of those, I would feed that class back to AI and just tell it,
Right, and just say if I could do that.
from this XML, here's the XML I want. Give me the code to give me this. And
Right.
it'll nail it.
The problem is this. Look, when a person creates a library, they build their own problems with it. In XPath, this is a totally valid path. You can go ahead and search anywhere for a given node. And if you have an @ sign, you will get the attribute of that node. That is totally valid XPath. In his version, that's not valid. In his version, when he's saying SSN, like select single node, he doesn't allow you to select the attributes, which is weird.
Okay, so I would like to try the select single node instead of SSN in there on line number 10. So
You can't, because this guy, I think I understand what you're trying to say, but this is his class. This is a COM object. The COM object allows you to do the thing. So for example, if I select, you know what, let's select the root thing, books, right? All right, and I want to select books. So that's my full node. Now here I can do what I'm trying to do. Author, I think I can do that. Because I have to get the full node, the COM object node, basically. But so I can do this. Let me see. Even there, oh, I cannot do the @ I know that there's a way to access the attributes in. That's okay. That's book 1. That's the text of that author. But I know that in XPath, let me see, XPath access attribute. There is a way to access that.
XPath is insane.
Oh, with a slash after. That's so annoying when that happens. So I was so close. I think that would work now. Did it? There it is. So you can do that, right? Now let me see if I can do it on his version. Let me see if I can do it in his version. Yeah, you can do it too. So that's it. So you can either use the select single node from the COM object, because this is a COM object, and you can see it by, well, not now, because it wasn't before. But here, if you grab a node, this is the node, that comes back as a COM object. Boom. And you can see it because of this. If you're debugging, you can see that the var type is 9.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah.
That usually tells you it's an object. It's a COM object. If you have a COM object, you cannot call the class's functions, because you have to call the ones that are defined for that object. In this case, would be select single node. But it seems to be that he is doing that under the hood. And if you use the right syntax for XPath, you can get what you want. Again, I think you're getting a node in here. So if you do that, again, you will get a node. Let me see. Yeah, that is a node. Look, I got the value. but I got a node which is a COM object still, which I can now access the text part of it to get what I need. But this time, I didn't get an object. I got the text. So now that I got the text, I cannot do this because this would be a function trying to perform a function on a string, and that's not going to work. Right now, I should get an error, right? But it is a little bit tricky, but if you use the correct XPath syntax, you can access everything you want, basically. Hopefully that made some sort of sense. You don't have to use the load command. As soon as you open the XML class with a name of a file, it kind of like loads the file immediately. And now you can just start with this, select single node, select nodes, and other functions that you can perform on them to get what you want. But make sure every time you call a function, verify what you get back. Because if you got a string, you cannot call methods. But if you got a COM object, now you have to know which methods you can call. It's not whatever you want, all right? So you have to keep track of what you got in your variable, whether it's the XML object, whether it's a node, or whether it's just pure text. So you have to keep track of those three things at all times. Hopefully
So
that helps.
in this scenario then, so you didn't have to use that .ea method at all because you
No.
used select single node typed out instead, right?
Yes. Yes. If you do the correct XPath, you can do almost everything.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I can show you real life examples of me using something similar to this. It is not exactly his method, his class, but the XPaths that I'm using, it's the same. You would do exactly the same.
XPath is crazy, crazy powerful. And Maestro showed me this for over 10, I'm sure 10 years ago now. It's really, really phenomenal to use XML when you have anywhere between, a couple hundred, or lower, or up to about, 7,000 elements. After that, it does start to slow down because it has structure. Like JSON doesn't have structure, and JSON's faster and more concise. But that XML, when you want a list of things that he built, HK Studio, and the backbone of it is that XML class grabbing amazing amounts of arrays of things and lists of stuff that you can do really crazy fast when you know what you're doing. So that's one of the reasons why that XML class, or if you're going to use XML, it's really good when you know you need to get a list of things. Man, it's crazy powerful for that.
So let me take 5 minutes before we move on. I don't know if Tyler is still here. Did he leave?
Sorry,
you still...
somebody just walked in, just now left, so I missed like the last 3 minutes.
No worry. I just wanted to show you a little bit of the XML class in real life, how it looks like.
Yes, please.
And I just wanted to take like 5 minutes before we leave.
Yeah.
So this is part of, I don't know if you can see my screen.
Yep.
So this is part of my toolkit class. So it's of my toolkit program, the one that I usually use. There's a lot of settings, preferences that I have in my tool. And basically at that time, what I was using was, oh my God, this thing, I don't know how I can, I think there has to be a way to, oh, there it is. At that time, I was using a lot of XML until I encountered some issues with it, performance issues, basically. So I was saving some options in here. I was saving some hotkeys in there and hot strings, right? Now, beside that, I had a set of, let me see, commands. Let me open this. You will see that there is a set of commands, and yeah, you can have those inside your XML. I had directives. I had a bunch of things that I needed for other things like snippets of code. I realized snippets of code were really annoying because your code can have very specific characters that you have to clear up and so on. And there are ways of dealing with that, which is called, how do they call that? Those are very specific types of nodes that are cleared. It is like, sorry, they are, oh, it is not, it's not in here. They're escaped codes that start with two brackets, two open brackets and two closed brackets, and they take everything in there literal and so on. So I actually had a bunch of issues that I realized afterwards how XML works. But when you look at the code, you will see that I loaded this configuration file. So let me look at it. Here. What I ended up doing is that I used the COM object that Microsoft has for it. The XML class that Maastricht is using is also connecting to the same COM object. What he did is that he added some custom functions on top of this object. I definitely was not using those methods that often. For that reason, I just went ahead and just connected to the object myself. But now that means that now you have to go to MSDN to know how this works, right? So all your answers will be there. Now, a few things. There's two things. One of them is the styling, and the other one is the object itself. And this styling here is what tells how I wanted it organized. So every time I save the file, it looks the same. That's what it is all about. And then later on, I just load a style, I load a script, the XML file into it, and then I go from there. As I have an object, you can have the document element as your root, and now from your root, you can do a bunch of stuff, like getting all the attributes, the first attribute from the root, and so on and so forth. So if you look at what I do, for example, the options, select single node, I capture a very specific attribute in my node, get it, and do whatever I want to do. That's it. And you will see that I do this quite often. So this is what it looks like in real life. You just, on my root, I select everything and always on top. And from my options, I select this other part. And I do certain things if it is selected or not. That's it. That's what you're going to be doing all the time. And the opposite is true. Whenever I'm trying to save something into the object, I would definitely just, at some point, just, here is for looping through items. So you loop through the length of all the nodes that you got. So select nodes, child nodes in here. That gives me a list. And I would go through them. And for each of them starting at 0, you get each item, item 0, item 1, item 2, item 3. And I get the name of each individual one and do something with it. That's what a real life class, the XML program looks like. Later on, I realized, yeah, I don't like typing that much. See, that's all. But I guess you can look at this and right away figure out what I'm doing. In the options, I'm trying to select a very specific part of my program that has a paste bin option for AutoHotkey. I want the private attribute, the text of it. Is it 1? Then make it private. If it's 0, make it public. Simple as that. So, and once you get used to it, like, hey, I need the expiration of that paste bin. So grab the expiration and put it right here. Hopefully that makes sense and that you get kind of like a real life example of what those things look like. And save, like options, maybe XML save, I guess. Yeah, configuration save. So once I make all my changes like this, for example, I select the single node, I make changes to it. I get my key, I set a value. So I grab my hotkey, put it in its value, put it there, and so on. I just put all the values into my current node. And once I'm ready with it, then I say, save that file And I actually did the transformation. You remember the style that I told you about? So I transformed the node to this style, just make everything look how I want it, and then save it, and then reload it. So as soon as I save everything, I reloaded it, and now I keep doing whatever I was doing for my next steps. So that's a high level overview of how to use the class with XML and everything. So with his class, it might be easier. You just do XML.ssn and that's it. In this one, I just type select single node, whatever it is.
But the whole core of it, I'm just going to regurgitate. He basically just tried to simplify what Microsoft already had for working with XMLs. Cool.
Definitely. So,
Cool.
and that's the idea with classes. You just make yourself something that is easier for you to use. For him, it was easier because he knew what he wrote. For other people, you have to learn it. So
Right.
depending on what you're doing, in his case, he doesn't have a lot of documentation. So I went to the MSDN one because I know where to look for the information. That's not the case for everybody, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, and to be fair, now the V2 one we just created, I can shove that right back in AI and say, go document this for me.
Go ahead and do this. Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
He was showing me that before I knew objects at all, like really. So I was learning objects and XPath and then the actual class because I didn't know anything about any of that stuff, right? But yeah, it's impressive.
So I guess Joe, then, so that was the first time you were kind of getting familiar with objects. So knowing what you know now, would you personally bother using his class, or would you just try to use the Microsoft tools?
It just depends on who else would be using it too, right?
Right.
If it's just you.
If it's just you, I probably would because he built in a lot of it makes it pretty simple. Many things very simple.
Okay.
For example, notice how if you open the class and put it a file name, it loads it automatically. And if you hit save, it just saves it correctly automatically. In my case, I had to manually do all that. I had to use the load XML. I had to transform the style and then save and then reload.
Gotcha.
He does all of that for you. You see what I mean?
And his has no styling.
Nothing to do. Yeah, he just hides all of that from you.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
If I remember right, because I remember in one of those videos, and there were more, like he covered that a lot with me. The working with a namespace also makes it more complicated, and I think he has that in there where you can handle if you have a namespace to deal with that.
Right. So in my case, it always depends on the goal. I like doing the difficult stuff just to learn how it works. So that later on, if something breaks, I know where to look for it. If his class breaks, I know where to look for it. If it breaks and you don't know how it works, you will have a very hard time doing that. So as I know more or less all the little steps that he's hiding, if something goes wrong, I know more or less where to look for it.
But gotcha. I thought you nailed the point I was going to say, Isaias, and you still roughly did.
Just
Isaias was spot on right in the fact that I don't give a crap about. I don't want to learn that, right? Like I want something simple. But
yeah,
I thought Isaias was going. He natively wants to learn, whether it's so he can troubleshoot or do whatever. He wants to know how it works. I have no interest in that, and that's why I make my decision to say yes, I'd use that.
I would use that, of course.
Yeah. I don't want to learn.
Joe's driving the car. Isaias is the mechanic.
Yeah, kind of exactly. So basically, that's basically it. And it is great usually to have a team that has people like that because in many cases you just need to make decisions that are quick, and it is just like we don't care how it works. But in others, oh, this shit broke. What broke? Oh, Isaiah, can you take a look at it? Let's see what happened, and I can kind of like guide through. But if both of us were the same, like we both don't care. Like whenever something broke, we're going to be screwed. If both of us were like me, like we always cared, then we never move forward because everything is depends, It's really crazy. So it's good to be somewhere in the middle, right?
Sure. No, that's great. I appreciate it. I've got more to play around with there. And I'm trying to use it. I'm kind of exploring options. What led me to this. So I was using Grok to try to parse an XML, and the first thing it gave me was a Python script. So I actually learned a little bit of Python. I got enough to build a tree view, And then I got to a point where I was like, well, I want to be able to show the tree view and then pull an attribute. And I'm like, I don't have that right now because I abstracted it out of the XML.
And thank you for reminding me of that, Tyler, because in the video, in one of the videos, he mentions how easy it is to take his XML class and show them in tree views and stuff, right?
And I had that working a little bit yesterday. And then as I was messing around, I deleted the code or it got obfuscated in there. So I'm going to try to recreate that maybe this
A
afternoon.
little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
So, let me see. Do I have any sort of tree views in my, because I do have a tree view in the preferences. I will see if I have that, and I will send you the code that I have for building that part. But in any case, one of the things is, are you locked in using XML at this point? Like, is it not your decision? Like, you found some files that you have to work with, and they are in XML?
Yeah. So the overall thing, what I'm doing, big scale, the program that my company sells, I have a little support tool that I can push a hotkey. I get a tree view of the menu structure, and I can show somebody, you need to go to the edit menu, run this command on the sub menu, whatever. And it just literally writes that into an email, so I don't have to remember where it is. I don't have to open the program.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I've got all that information in a XML file, and I want to just be able to create the tree view from it, write it in.
Perfect.
I've done that with Python parser. That's cool. So like that part's done. I was wanting to see if this would be an alternative method of like refreshing that, because every year we get a new version out, the menu changes a little bit.
Yeah.
But then the complicated part is like, all right, every little command, we have a keyboard command that you can just type into a command line, but it's in like a different part of the XML. That's the part I'm not expecting this XML class to handle that or do it. I'm still exploring my options, but yeah.
I will.
That's a long-winded answer. Yes, I am locked into a XML style file.
No
Sorry.
worries. No, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
I do think, I don't know how familiar you are with recursive functions. Have you played with those before?
Not
A
enough
recursive function is a function that calls itself, right?
Gotcha.
That's what it is.
Okay. Okay.
Now, in this particular case, whenever you have nodes and you don't know how many nodes they are, and those nodes can have children, and you don't know how many children they have, and the children can have children, you're already talking about a recursive function. If at any point you have time, research a little bit about recursive function. And if you do, the first thing you have to learn is how to exit a recursive function. Because if you have a function that calls itself and you don't have an exit out of that function, you're going to create an infinite loop, and it would hog your computer sometimes. I think AutoHotkey has a limit on recursion, but in certain situations, it just goes in and it's your memory and your computer hangs and you have to restart. So be careful with recursive functions, but I think you need one in this case.
And then in Telegram, I put a video from the AHKCon where Isaias and I were talking through XML, any files, JSON files, SQL databases, very different ways to store your data. So it's a nice overview of the pros and cons of the different approaches that are available to us. And then back to Isaias's point, what I want to show is this tool, which Maestrid built years ago. It loops across all of my Outlook folders and accounts, and you can see I have a lot, right? But it builds all this tree with the tree structure, right, which makes it very easy to go through and select some things or many things depending on where I click. But that's I can bet you money that was done with his XML class, and it works really well with tree views to display the results of what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
It's very, very cool. But just as an example of how tree views and XML go hand in hand, like it was a great example.
Yeah. Cool.